welcome to Politica Show on Lions Wire. Today is July 14th, 2024, and our political analysis is going to be provided, as always, by Ilya Levkov, a political scientist. And Ilya, welcome to the show.
Thank you, all our followers. I hope to connect and spread this show to many people as possible, and we'll do the best on our end. And I will congratulate you all with the Day of Bastille. We have a real Bastille in United States, and I hope it will be interesting. And
I think as of yesterday, Lucia, we have a de facto new United States president, assuming that he will survive till November.
it's obvious, but let me make it a documentary statement of this. You know which is a documentary statement?
No?
The documentary statement came from no other but from the Premier of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, who said, I and my wife Sarah and all the Americans in the world understands that it was not attack on a person, it was attack on American democracy and on democracy worldwide. The assassins' attempt on life of President Donald Trump. He used this form, President Donald Trump, not a nominee, not a former president. He said President Donald Trump. So he got the priority before you said. Okay?
Yeah, alright, he's got the patent on it. Fine.
Yes. Because it's authorization, you see. It's in a way he really put his finger on a scale for the first time, obviously for Trump rather than President Biden, about who we'll be talking later.
So yesterday, it was supposedly, or so I read in the news, a Republican member of Republican Party named Thomas Matthew Crooks, who was the shooter.
Yes.
Who got on top of the roof of a nearby building, I believe. I actually wanted you to comment on what do we know about the actual shooter.
I reply. Let's make it fast and furious.
Yes, please.
You know where it comes from, right? And if not, you will look into the Wikipedia later. Fast and Furious, and I didn't have time. Listen, you called me minutes ago to get shaved and be ready. I am replying to your call. I didn't have a chance. However, what is interesting is that it's obvious that he is an American. You see, my problems were in a while kept. What if this one of the illegals? What if this one of the illegals that came from Tajikistan, the ISIS people? What if this one of the illegals of the that came from communist China? You understand? In my head, why is my head is wired this way? I'll explain, since we're old friends and all our viewers are part of our family. I will explain to you. I came, as you know, in the autumn 1967 to the United States, graduate school at Brandeis, to study with Walter LaCure and Eric Goldhagen. By the way, look into those names and books that they wrote. Walter LaCure's daughter didn't write any books, but Goldhagen, son, Daniel Goldhagen, is a tenure at Harvard and specializes on the Nazis during World War II. Very, very interesting and important books. So, where do we stand? Yes, I remember that moment in the library somewhere in April 1968, when there was said like a rumor. I don't think there were speakers, but somewhere there was rumor, somebody, regardless, said Martin Luther King was shot. My first inclination was, I hope it is not a Jew. The classical fear of the, I'm not a diaspora Jew. I already 12 years lived in Israel and Europe, almost 9 months in the United States. But still, that note interesting about what was, I hope it's not the crazy Jewish fellow. So it was not a crazy Jewish fellow. And for months upon months until they found the real killer and accused him and then brought him to trial. It was quite a long story. So even if I would have known, I don't think there is a interesting or some notification of him in Wikipedia. Where else could I find about that person? However, about a month later, I remember once again sitting in the library and I heard that Robert Kennedy was shot. This time I didn't offer, nothing came to my head, although it could have, because it's a neighbor of Israel. He is a Palestinian who, for some reason, objected to. I don't know. There were yet no beginning of '68. There were a few problems. In any case, for some reason, he accused Robert Kennedy and shot him in that hotel in Los Angeles, where I visited that kitchen years later. So, an interesting thing, this is the stages. Indeed, another stage, if I don't think many people will remember, that photo of a New York Times, a Griffin, a Griff student woman shouting, crying on the body of her boyfriend who was shot in Ohio State University by the National Guard of Ohio, because there were protests against Vietnam and all that. National Guard was summoned to the state university to create, create an order, and they were shooting with live ammunition. And I don't remember precisely, but there must have been more than one person killed. But this photo became an icon for a generation. A woman on a knee, bending on a knee over the body of her boyfriend, cries, with the. Yeah. So those were the previous political killings that took place in the United States in those years. Now, what happened here? Now we're jumping several years forward, and we're talking now the question in a way that, okay, so we are back to our days. Where are we now with our days? Our days, in a way, connected to the classical age of Shakespeare. You remember, I believe it in a play, Richard III, the king asks, is there not a single man in my kingdom who can relieve me from that crazy monk? In a way, as you know, he was challenged in a classical biblical way, as Yirmiyahu told to King David. Remember the words, you have murdered and inherited. This was the case about his military general, that he sent him to a battle in which it was known that he will be killed. And this way, the King David inherited his wife Bathsheba, and the rest is history.
Yep.
So, In this particular case, this was also Shakespeare's call was in that particular vein. Is there not a single man in my kingdom who can relieve me from that crazy monk? Now, similar words were pronounced with a lower degree, but in the same concept, in the same hint by President Biden. He just less than a week ago stated that this president, he didn't call him, he said that man, as you know, in debate and etc. He referred to him as to nobody, and he said this man, he he caused he criminal felon. That is, he took the decision of a judge in New York. All the details.
Yeah.
I will repeat them. However, and used it. He said once again, he used it as not his words. Those are the words of a judge. But this was not the end of it. He continued to accuse Donald Trump once again via a mouth of another judge. And he said Donald Judge is a rapist. And then added, those are not my words. Those are the words of a judge. You understand? This was so obvious. So what is it create? It creates the atmosphere that we breathe becomes not poison, almost to be inflamed in a second. Because some people, and in the nation of 340 million, plus 10, 12 million illegals, somebody could have come. My gosh, I can get into a history, some nobody. I can get into a history if I try to assassinate this person. So this what did this week practically President Biden. This was highly, highly irresponsible because in a way you are calling some unknown crazy fellow, says, do me and the nation and the civilization a favor, eliminate this person. Now, I want to tell you that, yes, my positions are right of center, this is obvious. But I never, let's say, especially in the English language, I don't use negatives, loaded and overloaded. Neither I use it when I appear on various channels in Russian. For example, I don't call them lefty. It's a negative statement. If I disagree with something, I specify specifically and where is possible in quotation marks. But in Russian they use it levaki. I don't use it because it corrupts me. When I put a label, that means that I have nothing more to say but use somebody's label to these people to whom I might be opposed. But I don't do it for the sanity and analytical, I would say, purity in my thinking and analyzing to say the things without using a derogative language. Because the use of derogative language is a beginning to commit somewhere semi-criminal act and maybe even criminal. So I'm trying to guard my sanity. There's plenty of information. I would read rather a book about that topic or about this person. Let's say I'm rereading a book. I'm rereading a book by a person who interviewed President Biden. George Stephanopoulos. I don't know if you could see that.
Yeah, yeah, you can say.
Or I could send you a photo, which I read long time ago. Actually, I got it from him in a book fair in Chicago, where will be the forthcoming party conference. And there was also, I don't know if I ever told you the story about the 1968 Democratic Conference in Chicago, because it ended up once again with the same question I went through my mind in April. In those days, in a way, it was also in '68. What happened in Chicago? In Chicago, as you know, there were the radical Democrats and black partners and gray partners and God knows what other groups. They really decided to torpedo the party conference, which had to elect the candidate for elections as well. And what was interesting, it all culminated in a trial. And in this trial, the name of the accused was A.B. Hoffman, and the name of the judge was also Hoffman. You understand? You have to be Shakespeare, to stage this conference. And even I remember there was somewhere a play of not only off of Broadway, it was off of Brooklyn somewhere. I remember I went with a friend, invited me, and we went to watch this play. And I remember the title called Christmas Wrappings. Wrappings, as you know, wrapping in paper, various presents, but wrapping is also like wrapping, uh, talking.
Yeah.
Wrapping. So this was a very, very interesting play, and I remember 56 years ago, I remember it to this day. By the way, speaking about this day, I didn't elaborate on the murderer of Robert Kennedy. It was no other as Sirhan Sirhan. He was a Palestinian, and he sits still in prison. The board recommended a year ago, in May 9, 2023, to release, from prison after 56 years. And their decision was no. So to this day, an Arab, a Palestinian, killed the candidate of the Democratic Party. And today, people who vote for Palestinians forgetting that this is the person of Palestinian, and he claimed he didn't do it, he did it. But long story, I will not drag you into it. Back again to our days. So this question of utilizing images, and images are powerful. They were powerful even in World War II, but there was no international radio, no international newspapers, no TV, no internet. Somebody decided, Europeans, to pull United States to join the war. What did they do? They floated a story that German soldiers in Belgium taking newborn and very babies, throw them in the air, and then catching them by the peer of this rifle.
Yeah.
It was crazy idea, but still it was so unbelievable that it caught the nation, and the United States said, no, we will not let Europe to have this kind of atrocities. And they landed in Europe and in Far East in Vladivostok. But it's a separate story. But the point is that you can warm, heat up almost, such images that you don't say go and do something. Because the United States was far away from Europe and far away from the war and didn't want to get into this. To the degree that the United States really idea was okay, after the war, we'll accuse only one country, it was Germany. We impose upon them abnormal high um, financial punishment if they have to pay restitutes to numerous countries, and um, and thereafter we know what happened. It really gave the rise to Nazism, Hitlerism, etc. And whatever, all those millions, etc. Because once again, it was not done in idea. Let's say World War II was the opposite. United States offered to the countries and declared war on Europe, even in the United States. They after the imposed peace, they still offered them the financial plan, Marshall Plan, which resurrected those countries. But this resurrection took place after years of a sort of denazification policy in Germany and in Japan. So I'm giving kind of a storyline of story, but at the same time I have to move left and right to explain the things that happen. Now, back today to United States once again. What is most unusual effect? That is, and this is within the Democrat Party, i.e., they accuse Republican in the following three crimes. They endanger democracy. They endanger, now I forgot already, what was it? I've written in notes. Something, and there are, they, and to the destruction of the Supreme Court. I will start with the Supreme Court. Why they were? Because nowadays, yes, whoever governs, he nominates judges. It's all absolutely legal. There is nothing illegal in it. So, at this point, as we know, there is 6 conservative, they are not Republican, they are not allowed to be active party members, and 3 on the left side. So what happened last week? Last week, there was some voting about the guiltiness of Trump in one of those trials, and they voted 6 against 3, because one of the left judges voted with the right, and one of the last nominee of Trump, the lady, wanted with the liberal, the so-called democratic judge. So here you have the real political healthy life. Well, people vote not by party ordering as it was in Germany and the Soviet Union and any others, but they say by doing so, by keeping even 6-by-3 formula nowadays, so this destroys democracy. No, it's a part of the democracy, and each branch is independent, and therefore the so-called the last nominee by President Trump voted against. But for some reason, this situation does not percolate to upper echelons, lower echelons, but they don't see it. They think, no, you will destroy our democracy. And then they quote him where he said, I will be a dictator. Fun, Trump talks with fun and fun. He said, they asked him, will you be a dictator? He said, yes, adding, but only for one day, when he will change everything which was there. Executive orders we have been um, seeded and utilized by the Biden's administration. So once again, we have a certain, instead of criticize the reality, criticize the case itself, criticize something else. And besides this, how could what was more anti-democratic in the recent months that those that when the Department of Justice really invented various accusations against former President Trump and subdued the independent branch for the party line of the Democrats. You understand? This is an obvious violation. Obvious that we have all the Department of Justice, which send us a third person, ranking certain person to New York to comment, which met with many people in the White House. The same case in Georgia. They went to the White House, not to the Department of Justice, and communicated what should be done and what kind of a punishment should be inflicted on Donald Trump. It was so obvious. Judges, prosecutors, and the jury. You see, there are 5 layers of this. All of them, 100%, brought the verdict that Trump is guilty. So this is the end of democracy, because if the independence of judiciary is in such a situation, and all the judges will work along the party lines, let's say you want a loan from a bank, it comes down to this, or for business, or whatever. The party says, don't give them the loan, and the loan will not be given. If the judiciary system is destroyed and corrupted, this will be the end of the United States, the end of democracy. So what is on the flagstone of the Democrat Party? Trump is guilty of destroying of democracy. It's really the world of black is white, white is black. And we thought that it can be only in the novel 1984 and similar one, which were published in Western Europe and even in the Soviet Union, Solzhenitsyn. So this danger of weaponize your perception, which is on a pilot, automatic pilot, which whatever you don't like nowadays, and you are already so-called committed, the rest of it negative, bad, and must be eradicated. That is the destruction of democracy. Democracy must have plurality, and that plurality is being eliminated. If you believe in that they're only male and female, you are in trouble. As a teacher, as a co-worker, and many other places. This is terrible. And those who try to milk this situation for their political goals will reap no good fruits. The United States indeed will cease to be a real democratic state and policy for which it was created. So give me a question and I'll try to answer.
Yeah, so for one, the judicial system in the US, it was always filled by the president. Previously, right, the judges are appointed to the Supreme Court by the president and I think approved by the Congress, and many of them are members of either of the two parties. And there was a little bit of that division always, I think, but it was not used in such a way where judicial system basically in this case, in case of Trump, it became sort of a weapon, an instrument of Democratic Party.
Yeah, I don't want to get up and show you the volume of Brandeis, Judge Brandeis, who was a Jewish from the South and who was the Chief Justice and who said about this, sunshine is the best disinfector, i.e. transparency. That transparency must be dominant always. Look at this. At this point, the Secretary of Justice, of the Department of Justice, refuses to open to the public the audio interrogations, of course, of President Biden. If this would have been fulfilled, the problem of the debate between Biden and Trump would not have been as surprising. You understand? However, so the structure and the Democratic Party, yes, they can hide it from the city. And he was demanded, by the way, give us the audio. He says no. So the congressional committee, will summon him. And he says, I don't give a continental. I'm not going to testify to some committee what they want, period. However, so what does it all mean? We citizens don't know how he really spoke those 5 hours on the audio and which errors did he make and all that. However, and nobody knows. However, our enemies know it. You don't have to teach Putin or Xi or any other or those Iranians ayatollahs or other that Biden is not a leader that you have to fear him. He is not person normally at the 82 years old. Normally, he is not a person who leads a country ready to defend it, ready to defend their allies. You understand? That's what Biden did. Biden did in October 7th, 2023. This was the readiness. What he agreed instantly that Israel, a loyal ally, must be supported. But there was immediate, in the same speech, I think I mentioned it to you several times, maybe I will dedicate one of my programs to this problem in 1973. From the inside of the national security, NSA, National Security
Agency. NSA is National Security Agency.
From the inside, we have a very interesting, I would call it whistleblower, what was there and how United States knew at least a week before the Yom Kippur War about the forthcoming war and did not inform their ally Israel. So once again, the enemies of the United States and of democracy know perfectly well the weakness and limitation of President Biden. However, So for them, there is nothing new. They saw the picture, the video of United States leaving Afghanistan with that huge last. Remember, there was the play last boat to China
Yeah.
from yes from so this was the last aeroplane from Afghanistan, and it is drama. You saw people whose dreams was squashed, who were running under the wheels of this huge aeroplane, transport aeroplane. And there was plenty of drama and plenty of Americans. Listen, United States left over 1,000 Americans. 1,000 Americans. Do we know anything about it? No. Why don't we know? Because the press decided not to talk about it. Exactly as now, properly so, President Biden became a victim of his political philosophy.
Yeah.
I.e., he said now when his candidacy is being challenged by movie moguls, by rich people, by have been President Clinton and Obama, all them are against him. And he said, I don't need your support. I know that I received 14 million votes that voted for me in primaries. And this is the only line that I will follow. I have mandate from the members of the Democrat Party. So the leaders who do not like or don't trust him and don't want him, they select a different way to dump him down. And suddenly President Biden says, hey, the number one enemy of the democracy of United in the United States, he thinks so, but he didn't say so. It's not Donald Trump. It's my brothers-in-law in politics and in life for the last 50 years. That's what happened. Why should Clooney have more weight who will be the candidate of the Democratic Party just because he contributed money? This
And
is the main question. And I simply would like to end our show with this question because I would like our listeners, whatever their political inclination are, please think about this, how the political so-called ace of Democratic Party has introverted and showed that the enemies of the democracy for the democratic process of uh, um, political process for the Democrat Party and the candidate of the Democrat Party is not Trump. He will never forbid candidate of a different thing, but they all say that this will be, if Trump comes, if you ask the ladies, 5 ladies on the View program and others, they're sure this what will happen on the next day. And don't ask them a logical question. They will remain blindly loyal to this conclusion, which is unshakable and irrevocable. And this is the problem. When we have holy cows and holy icons, which are unshakable and irrevocable, then we should write democracy in America at least with a small d, not with capital. And maybe at all drop this letter. And this is what I would like you to think this week until we meet next
next
week.
week. Thank you very much, Ilya.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
you.